Welcome back. Once you have everything quilted, then just sew it all together inside out, stitching all the seams together so they look something like this. Once you have all the seams put together, looking something like that, then you're going to pull the whole thing inside out. So in this case, I take my hand and put it through the sleeve. I grab the end of the sleeve and then I yank it so that the outside is now properly out. That way the seam looks something a bit like this. That way it lasts longer and it looks nicer. It also doesn't catch on things like mail as easy. Now the next part is putting eyelets and buttons onto it. So for an eyelet, pass it through the fabric, poke it through the fabric, then pass it through the hole, and just make a loop like that, going all the way around the entire hole. So I just wanted to clarify something before we move on. When I started making this Gambeson, and when I finished it, I acquired some new resources, and the difference between these resources and the ones that I started from is that these new ones, the most recent ones, give me more primary information. So in this case that means being able to see all of the individual fragments that made up the garment, all kind of laid out and everything. So as it turns out, the original is considerably more complicated than the one that I built, being made from a lot more smaller pieces. So keep that in mind. Another notable difference in the original is that it is a civilian garment that's fashioned to look martial or military. The outer shell has kind of a nicely embroidered silk on it, unlike the tough canvas that I used. And so you'll also notice that because of this, there's also no sign of mail being worn over, so there's no black streaking pattern from the oil. And one other thing that doesn't come as far down the legs that you can see on actual Gambesons of the time from iconography and effigies at the time. So like in manuscripts, they tend to come down almost to the knees. They can be seen underneath the habergeon, which makes sense because generally speaking, mail has padding under it. So I just wanted to clarify that before we move on. For sizing, there's a bottle cap, there's a penny, there's another penny, and a nickel. First thing you're going to do, start making very large stitches around the edge. They don't have to be very small. In fact, it can be very helpful to keep the stitches far apart. Once you've stitched all the way around the button, put it between your fingers, wrap the thread around your finger, and then pull it all tight so that it kind of bunches all up. Usually you wouldn't want that, but in this case that's exactly what you want. From there on, all you have to do is sew it to the Gambeson.
I have to push the pram along.
On second thoughts, let's not go to Camelot. It is a silly place.